Now turn to talk about types of data. Uh, and so our objectives here are, again, largely in the nature of vocabulary. It's knowing what qualitative data is versus what quantitative data is. And then among the quantitative data, you want to be able to distinguish between discrete data and continuous data. Okay, so what are data? Data are basically collections of observations, measurements, genders, surveys, responses. Quantitative data is data consisting of numbers representing counts or measurements. Categorical data consists of names or labels. So quantitative data either asks how much or how many. And categorical data basically breaks things up into categories. So for example, first item here, we want to know the eye color of driver's license applicants. So you get these responses, it'll be blue, brown, hazel, hazel, brown, brown, hazel, blue, etc. And those type of responses, do they ask how much, how many? No, they don't. And so that makes them qualitative. They basically just break the candidate pool up into different categories based on their eye colors. Second, weights of supermodels. So you have 98, 95, 102. Okay, I'm assuming they're all underweight. That might be a little bit unfair. But the weights of supermodels, they're asking, it's not just that there are numbers there, it's that they're asking how much does this person weigh? How much weight? How many pounds? So this is quantitative data. It's how much, how many. Okay? Ages of respondents. Basically, how long have you been sitting around on planet Earth? 28 years, 35 years, 62 years, etc. It's how many, how much. It is quantitative. Okay. You've got genders of the respondents, right? So you ask the respondents, male or female, or you observe, hey, is this a male I'm talking to or female I'm talking to or observing of these athletes? But when you record them, you record a 1 if the person you observed is female, and 2 if the person you observed, or excuse me, 1 if the person you observed is male, 2 if the person you observed is females. So now you've got this list of 1s and 2s. Does that make it quantitative? No, because this information 1 and 2 still doesn't refer to a how much, how many. It basically just breaks the data set up into groups. So this is still qualitative data, even though you are reporting your results using numbers. Okay? Now, when we've got quantitative data, you can further break it down into two categories called discrete and continuous. Discrete data is basically going to be data that you count. Continuous data is going to be data that you somehow have to measure. Now, for those who've taken higher level math, particularly the calculus, the word continuous has a more precise mathematical meaning, and some things in here might not fit those meanings absolutely perfectly, but these have to do with how we model data anyway. It has to do with how we set things up and do the math on it. So still the idea of, hey, if it's discrete, if you count it, it's basically discrete data. If it's continuous data, then it's something that you actually measure. So let's look at these things. The weights of rock samples. So we have a bunch of weights of these samples of rocks. Are they discrete or continuous? Well, do you measure it or do you count the weight of a rock? Well, it's something you measure. Because it's something you measure, it is continuous. What about you've got a listing of new homes, and each new home has the number of bedrooms in that home. So you have this list of numbers: 3, 2, 3, 3, 4, 3, 1, 4. Okay? List of number of bedrooms in the house. Is that a discrete or continuous data? Well, you get the number of bedrooms in the house by counting up the number of bedrooms, so that is discrete. It is counted. Okay. Age in years. This is tricky because sometimes people can report their age as, well, I'm 37.5 years old, or I'm 37.8196 years old. Those are possibilities. That's reasonable. On the other hand, people might report their age, they usually report their age rounded off to a nice near number, discrete. Usually I'd say we are going to measure age continuously. Um, but you can take for right now, I just leave this example out there to just say that sometimes this is vague. Usually it's as simple as saying, well, do we count it? Do we measure it? But usually, because it could be depicted as something other than a counted amount, we're going to say it's continuous. Finally, distance in miles is usually something we measure. Okay, and because it's measured, we usually think of it as continuous. Again, even if the way people got that measurement was by counting mileposts along an approach. Okay, we usually think of something that could be measured, therefore it's continuous. It makes no sense to try to measure the number of bedrooms in a house. That always is going to be counted, and that's why that is considered to be discrete data. Hope